Let's talk about self-abandonment. I know in your work with youth, you help them, right, have actual steps that they can take so that they don't abandon themselves. And first off, I guess, like, why is it important for youth not to abandon themselves, and what things can they do to make sure they're not doing that?
When we allow children to get curious about who they are and why they're people pleasing or why they are challenging situations, or when they are showing up in a manner that is uncomfortable for us as the adult, or when it's uncomfortable for peers their own age, it's really important that we pay attention to the stories and narratives that they're telling themselves, right? So a lot of the children that I work with, they can come from various socioeconomic status backgrounds. Their parents can be anywhere from the elite C-suite to, the person that gets up at 2:00 in the morning to go pick up garbage off the street. I don't see what their parents do, right? I don't see who their parents are, not a reflection of who I look at them and what they can be. And by giving kids the opportunity to know that the world is theirs, that infinite possibilities are theirs, that choices have consequences. And the word consequence is neither good or bad. It's just an outcome, right? It is a process of doing. And so when we can give kids the power to think, what would make me happy right now? How can I choose joy? What would bring me happiness? How do I create my own happiness, right? Instead of looking for the external, it's to go internal with everything. Internal, how am I speaking to myself? Internally, why am I getting so frustrated right now? Oh, yes, I had soccer yesterday. I missed the ball. That was the first time I've seen my dad in a week. He came to my game. In 5 minutes, I failed my dad. I missed the ball. So new day, same story, still sitting in that emotion. Mm-hmm. Instead, if I say, you know what? I went to my soccer game. I played soccer. I'm so excited. My dad's back in town for a little bit. I get to see him today. We're going to have dinner afterwards. It's going to be amazing. Oh, wow, new day, fresh start. It all depends on our perspective. It all depends on what we're bringing to the table for the kids, right? And one of the most important gifts adults can give to kids is letting them create their own story, right? The narrative that I just shared, about my father being a narcissist and marrying a narcissist and then 5 kids, that's not my story. But it's a lot of people's stories, right? And the children now get to have the space to create their own story. And we have to foster the space. We have to help them find the space. We have to let them find their freedom, because stories do not need to stifle us and to prevent us from breathing, right? Stories give us a voice to get curious, to make changes, to live. And I think it's really important that when we notice a kid acting up in class continuously, it's important that we stop and pause and get curious about what is causing them to get so upset, what is causing them to cause a ruckus, what is causing them to do X. Because more likely than not, it's from some experience that they brought into school with them, or they brought into camp with them, or they brought into wherever they are with them. It's not even their story, but what they're doing is each time they bring in that story, they're abandoning their own opportunities. Mm-hmm. And we have to make sure that kids know what you experienced this morning is not determining how the rest of your day has to go. It will not determine what you do in an hour. You get to choose that. Your brain is so excited for you to make a new choice. Your brain is, on the one hand, here to keep you safe, but really and truly, you have all the power. You have all the power for your brain. So let's tell your brain what you want to feel. Let's tell your brain the thoughts you want to think. Let's go outside and run around and be free again. Mm-hmm. And as you think your brain's going to come back in with that little sneakiness and tell you that you're not so great, or that you're a horrible person, or, you're a failure, check in to see why your brain's doing that. Is your brain trying to help you, or is your brain trying to hurt you? And that's the power. But we aren't, as educators, and we aren't as a collective having that kind of a conversation with kids. And that is why I am so unbelievably passionate and unwavering in what I'm doing for children, because it's so essential that they know that the thoughts between their ears are optional. They're optional.
Right. Yeah. And I like, right. The fact that it isn't a conversation in schools, like just across the board, right? Just like part of the school system, the school culture, what have you, is, man, it's so frustrating, because absolutely, like, some of the best life skills aren't being taught. And obviously you're teaching them. So we appreciate you, and your mission. I'm curious too, also, you mentioned things about, right, parents and how we can impact our kids. Anything else on like how parents impact their own child's, right, compassionate culture, that inner compassion? How do we influence them?
Influence the parents or influence the kids?
How do parents impact their own child's compassionate culture?
Parents have so much weight in what happens with their kids. Now, with the topic being about gaslighting, right? That is one of the, like, even as I say it, I had this like burning sensation in my body, right? To think that someone would try to gaslight a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old or a 12-year-old or a 25-year-old or even a 55-year-old. Doesn't matter how old you are at any stage in your life, to see parents are trying to prevent you from being your most authentic rock star self. It's very hard to swallow. And so we have to teach kids, to get really curious about what their parents are saying to them if it's not propelling them forward. I use the word propel intentionally because every child, that when they're first learning to talk, they're playing with different kinds of toys, right? And more often than not, they're going to have some kind of a plane. And all planes, especially for children, and they're not ginormous planes, but they're big enough where they have a propeller, right? And the propeller spins. And the purpose of the propeller is to take you higher and higher into the sky or help you land safely to the ground. If you are not going higher and higher in the sky safely, or if you cannot land safely on the ground with your propeller, then we have something to look at. And so I use the word propel really intentional, because the word itself, if parents are not pushing their kids forward to go higher and wider and expand and get curious about their own life, we have to get curious about what the parents are trying to prevent them from doing. And when kids start to recognize, hold on a second, I'm an amazing soccer player. Why does my mom keep telling me that I better watch out because I'm going to trip over my feet? I actually don't trip over my feet. Why does she keep saying that to me? I'm going to go ask my friend. Do you ever notice that I trip over my feet? No. Okay. My mom keeps saying, watch out, you're going to trip over your feet again when you start playing soccer. And as I say that story, my friend's parent hears. My friend's parent comes over and says, Dana, you never trip over your feet. You are so agile on that soccer field. You get the ball, you don't even see it move because you're so swift. So shifting the language, shifting the story, shifting the narrative. I have an advocate all of a sudden for me, right? It's really helping kids pay attention to the language that's being spoken to them. I left the classroom June 2018, and for close to 17 years in the classroom, the amount of gaslighting that I saw from teachers, the amount of gaslighting that I saw from parents, it is astronomical. And I have had the privilege of starting many programs and working with a myriad of intelligence. And it is astonishing that we are sitting here today knowing that the work is not just for adults when it comes to gaslighting, that we have to empower and we have to educate, and we have to model. What does brilliant self-talk sound like? And what does propelling self-talk sound like? And what does brilliant external self-talk sound like? And if we are feeling something in our body from words, what is that feeling and where are we feeling that feeling? So for me, when I experience anxiety, it's in my right side of my stomach, only the right side of my stomach. I know when things are getting stressful, but I've ignored all the things, all the red flags, all the signs, all the different, signals around me until my right side of my stomach hurts. And I share that because we have to teach kids what's happening internally. Where are you feeling this experience right now in the moment? Okay, I feel it in my stomach. Okay, what just happened in my stomach? Oh, I heard that word again. I suck. You're gonna fall. You aren't smart. You're not as good at them, right? So whatever the phrase is, whatever the words are that I keep hearing that are squeezed in there between I love you, you're not so great, right? Between all of those moments, I have to then really become aware of what's happening in my body. So then I can say, oh, there it is again. Those words that I don't want to hear. Those words don't have any meaning to me. My meaning maker is not attaching to them. Right. So it's those kind of like it's the importance of watching and observing and really being a non-judgmental observer, right? I have to catch myself. It's very easy for me to judge a parent when I'm like listening to them go off on their child. And then I have to step back and say, no, Dana, remember they are probably reacting to their child the way that they were taught, and they don't have the self-awareness. So now I get to help the child use their voice so then they can go speak to their parents. And over time, the parent will listen and the parent will do differently. And the amount of kids that have actually helped their parents shift from the practices that I teach them is remarkable.